Alright, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about using samples in our Ableton sessions. So what I've got here is I opened up a blank template from Ableton. As you can see, I've got my two MIDI tracks and my two audio tracks. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to save this live set. And we're going to keep organized with it. So I'm going to save this in my music folder, Ableton Sessions, Digital Music Production Spring 2020. And I'm going to call this our samples lesson. I'm going to click save. Alright, so now that that's saved, for the most part when we're working with samples, we're working with audio samples. Audio samples can be converted to MIDI information, and then that MIDI information can be played back with any MIDI instrument, which can get really interesting. But for the most part, while we're getting started out, we're just going to be working with audio samples. And then we can get a little more intricate with it later on. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of my MIDI tracks here. I'm just going to delete them because for the most part, we're just working with audio. Alright, so then we're going to go online to Google Chrome. And we're going to set up, I'm using Google Chrome. If you're using a different browser, then you should have the same types of settings here, the same options. In Google Chrome, we've got these three little dots over here, and we can pull up our menu for some of the options that Google Chrome offers, and one of them is to adjust and customize our settings. So we're going to click on that Settings tab. We're going to scroll down to this Advanced tab, and we're going to click on that Advanced tab, and it's going to pull up some other options for us. And we're going to go to this Downloads section here. And we're going to change the location of where our downloads are going. We want to create a folder for all of our samples to go into when we're downloading them so that they all stay together and stay organized. And then that way we can use them on other projects and whatnot. And then we're not having to move them around from one place to the other. They just go right where we need them. So I'm going to click and change this location, my download location. And I'm going to also save this to my music folder. And in here I've created a folder for my samples library. And once things get downloaded into the samples library, then I further organize them into a category so that when I'm looking for something specific, I can easily find it. So I'm going to select this samples library, click select, and then I can get out of this window. You can always go back and change that to your preference after you're done working with the samples. So we've got two websites we can go to, at least for now. There's probably a lot more of them out there. In fact, there are, and I'll start giving you guys some more recommendations. But for now, we're going to go with looperman.com. This one is free. Free website where you can go up and find a bunch of samples and then start to put together a cool song. And then we've got Splice. So splice.com is a website that you can go, and they do charge a monthly fee. I believe the lowest rate is $8 a month, $7.99 a month. But you can sign up for a free 14-day trial. You do have to enter your debit or credit card information, so make sure to set an alarm from 14 days when you start the trial to go back and cancel it if you're not looking to keep your subscription. But we can use this for the duration of the course. And it's a really good website. It also has an app that you can download. So Splice has an app you can download to your computer, and so this is this is what it looks like, the app itself. You sign into the app just the same way you would sign up online, and then you can go and search different instruments. You can search by instrument if you're looking for some drums. You can go on and audition different drum kits. You can search by genre, so if you want some blues stuff, you can always go and look for some different samples. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I'll probably just use some Looperman free samples. In fact, I downloaded some earlier when we were in our discussion. And so I'm going to navigate to my Finder, where my samples are. And you can see I've got some drums here. And this is what I downloaded earlier, I believe was this rap trap drum pattern. and I'm just pressing the space bar when I have that highlighted, and it lets you audition what you're listening to. So I'm going to navigate back over to Ableton Live, and I'm going to drag and drop that drum sample into my session. Now you can drag and drop this sample into the session view, or let's say you want to drag it into the arrangement view and get right into the arranging, then you can also drag and drop it right into the arrangement view. So I'm going to go ahead and, actually I'll stay in here for a second. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this track, and I'm using, you can right click to rename tracks, you can right click on the title and go down to rename option, or you can use Command R to rename. So I'm going to, again, Command R, and I'm going to call this my drums. And a lot of times I like to go in all caps so I can see really clearly what it is that's on that track. When you're using samples, though, this is a little bit different than using a MIDI instrument, because MIDI instruments, if you're putting an instrument on, a device instrument onto a track, unless you're using the effect rack, which is we'll get into using later, for the most part you can only put one instrument on that track, on that MIDI track. If you're using samples, you could put anything you want on any of your tracks. So you will still want to have that concept of being organized when you're using samples, keeping all your drums on one track, keeping all your maybe stringed instruments on one track, maybe keeping all your bass instruments and low-end instruments on one track. You might want them all on their own tracks. So this is really up to you how you're going to do this. So let's hear how this sounds. Alright, so when it came in, you can see that I've got the clip selected here. And down here in my clip editor, you're seeing that this little area right here says warp. And it's warping to beats. However, what it's done is it's informed Ableton of the tempo of this song, 100 BPM, 100 BPM. So now my metronomes should line up with this beat. Let's hear it. So this allows me to play along with it when I'm using my MIDI instruments. So if I change this BPM, this global BPM up here, say maybe to 120, then my whole song should change to 120. Alright, so I'm going to change that back to 100 BPM. Keep the original, and you can see down here, if we're looking at this loop in the clip editor, we've got 4 bars. We've got from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then we loop back around. So this is just a loop. When we come over into the arrangement view, you can see that this loop again is grayed out because I activated it from the session view. So if I click back to arrangement view, that clip comes back online, and then what I can do is I can duplicate this loop if I want to. So I know for sure that this loop is 4 bars. I've got between 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, so it's a 4-bar loop. If I highlight it and I press the Command and the letter D, that's our duplicate function. So now I've duplicated that loop. Now I have an 8-bar loop. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to highlight both of these loops, and I'm going to press duplicate, Command D, and now I have a 16-bar loop. It duplicated both of them at the same time. So there's one element to our lesson, or to our assignment this week. We just need one more sample, and then we're going to play a MIDI instrument over it, and that's the assignment. So let's go find another sample. We can listen to how this sounds. I'm going to turn my metronome off. Cool, and it keeps playing over and over. So even though I've duplicated this loop 4 times in my arrangement view, if we go back into the session view, you can see I still only have this one loop. So think of this. anytime you drag and drop a clip from one view, so say from arrangement view I have this clip, and I drag and I drop it into the session view, it copies it. It made a new copy of it when it went over to the session view. It did not move it or take it out of the arrangement view. Same went for when I initially dragged the, I guess I dragged it from the Finder into the arrangement view. The same goes for the session view. If I'm to drag a clip from the session view into the arrangement view, it doesn't remove it from the session view. It copies it into the arrangement view. So it's always making a copy when you go take one clip and then you take it from session view into the arrangement view or arrangement view into session view, you get a copy of it. So another thing to keep in mind is that when you're working in the arrangement view, if you highlight one of your clips, you're still going to get the clip editor down at the bottom, but now this clip is independent of any of the other clips. So if I want to modify this, for instance, if I come up into the session view or to the arrangement view, and let's say I want to remove a section of that clip, I'm just highlighting it, I'm just clicking and dragging an area here, highlighting it, and if I press the delete key, now I've modified that clip. And you can see, if I click on this clip, which section of that clip I'm using. The rest has become unhighlighted. And then if I wanted to turn that section into a loop, then I just move those brackets around it, and now this can act as its own loop. If I wanted to drag it into the session view, so you have so much flexibility with what you can do with these, with all these samples. You can bring one sample in, and then you can modify it 100 different ways, and you can copy it from one view into the other, and you can start playing it in a variety of different ways. So this one here is a duplicate, so I'm going to get rid of that. But I kind of like this little section here, so I'm just going to keep that. And in fact, it's not one bar, so I'm just going to move it out to be one full bar down here in this clip editor. I just moved that bracket out, so now it's going to play one full bar. And then I'm going to go back to the arrangement view, and I'm going to click back to arrangement view, and I'm going to get rid of this little clip here, and I'm going to bring this modified one over. So now I'll have this little break. Or however you want to do it. And you can also always extend these back out and play them forever and ever and ever. So you have so much you can do here. I'm just going to drag this out to full length here. So, all right. So let's keep playing here. All right. So now I'm going to go back over to, let's say, Looperman, and let's find something. So a cool thing is that you can always look up these tags that are at the bottom of any. So first of all, let's go to the home page. So this is what it'll look like when you get here to looperman.com. You can go to the Loops and Samples section or page, and you can start looking for keywords, or maybe type in a keyword here and say 120 or 100, let's say 100 BPM. Find loops. And then I get these songs that are at 100 BPM. You can also type in keys or notes that you want, and you can click on these tags, and you can find different things: guitar loops, trap loops, Fruity Loop Studio, string loops. Let's listen to what this is. Alright, let's just try it out. So I'm going to click, you must be logged in before you can download, so I believe you're going to need to create an account here. And let's see. Yeah, I can't see all of this. I can't remember what email address I used. All right, cool. So I'm logged in, and now I can go back to where I was. I gotta find something now. Let's go up. Let's just try and do the same search I did, 100 BPM, find loops. Then I clicked on 100 BPM. All right, here we are. So I'm going to download this and click download, and now I know that this download is going into my folder here that I downloaded here. And if you want, you can rename it. So I'm going to call this like a strings, and then I'll put it in my stringed instruments folder. Oh, actually, I should put that in my stringed loops folder. And here it is, strings. So now that it's organized, now I can pull it into Ableton. And there we go. We've got a 4-bar loop, or maybe that's an 8-bar loop. I can just duplicate it. Very cool, right? All right, so, and then as you can see, I'm going to stay here in Ableton. Nothing. I don't have anything over here in the session view. I dragged and dropped this clip right in to the arrangement view, and there is no copy of it in the session view. So, a lot of times, what I like to do is maybe just use the session view as a place where I can store my loops and store different ideas that I have, and maybe come over into the arrangement view. What we could do if we wanted to come in here and modify this as a bit is maybe take out certain sections of our, our strings. We can make this dynamic. Obviously, you'd probably want to do that a little more methodically. I'm just pressing Command Z to undo that, and a little more thought out, but you can really find these nice spots to take things in and out, your loops. And so let me now, so I have this set of strings, and because now, just keep this in mind, now because I started playing this clip in the session view on this track, now this track over here is not playing from the arrangement view. It's playing the drum beat from the arrangement view. And you'll see that when this drum beat stops playing, the only thing that's playing is the strings from the session view. So if I click back to arrangement view, everything comes back on in the arrangement view. If I come over into the session view and I start activating clips from the session view, then those clips become inactive in the arrangement view. Although, as far as this drum loop is playing, it's playing linearly, and when it stops playing, or when it runs out of clip, it's just going to keep playing nothingness unless I activate the loop from the session view. So now you can see everything became grayed out over here because I've now activated that clip from inside the session view, which is a loop, which is just going to loop forever and eternity. So let's say I got some other ideas. I'm going to pop back over into my string instruments, and let's see what else we've got here. Let's see if that piano works. So I'm going to put this into more strings. So I'm going to call this track Command R, strings. So you see what I'm doing here is I'm just clicking play on different ones, and it sounds to me like these two match up pretty well. Actually, excuse me. These two match, I mean they all kind of match up decently, and these two match up pretty well. So now if I arrange them properly, now I can just launch them together as a scene. Alright, cool. So now let's say I start coming up with some really good ideas over here in the session view, and I have maybe 3 or 4 different drum loops and 3 or 4 different strings, and everything works together. Then what you can do is you can come back over to the arrangement view. I'm going to click back to arrangement view. And if I wanted to keep this a very simple 16-bar loop, then the job is pretty much done. I just need to add one MIDI instrument here. However, I want to show you guys something neat. So I'm going to highlight all these clips here, and I'm just going to delete them. I'm going to put my playhead here at the beginning, somewhere in the beginning of my track. And then what we have here is called the global record button. So this is the global record button. This means that anything that's armed down here in the arrangement view, or in the session view, excuse me, is going to then get recorded into, anything that, so if I have these tracks armed, let's say I have, some vocals here and somebody clapping here, and these are both set up for microphones, you can record multiple tracks at once, but whatever tracks you want to record to, they need to be armed. And then we have the global record button, which is going to then begin to record into this arrangement view. So I've armed all the tracks that I want to record, and I've armed the global record button so that it gets recorded into the arrangement view. Then what you do is press play or use the spacebar, and you'll see that now my voice is actually getting recorded. We can't hear it back because I have that turned off for the moment, but you can see my voice is getting recorded onto both tracks because the computer is set up as my audio device. So we can record into the session view, or excuse me, into the arrangement view, but we need to have the tracks armed that we're recording to, and we need to have the global record button enabled. I'm going to delete these vocal tracks here, and I'm going to show you something that's really pretty neat. So what we can do is we can click global record so that whatever we want to record into the session view, or into the arrangement view, gets recorded. And then we can actually unarm these tracks, and whatever we play over here in the session view is going to get recorded into the arrangement view. So let's say I play my drums. You'll see that now those drums are getting recorded into this arrangement view. Alright, cool, and then I click stop down here, and I'm going to click stop in my arrangement view. And now you can see that whatever I was playing in the session view got recorded onto the arrangement view. So I'm going to click back to arrangement view, and let's say I really liked that. What you then can do is you can come in here and you can still modify this however you want. You can highlight, if you want to just cut a clip, say for instance if I want to cut this clip right here, the function for that is Command E. It stands for edit, and then you can trim parts away that you don't want, and you can actually really kind of customize. And remember that as soon as you cut a clip, then it becomes an independent clip. If you want that clip to then become a loop, so I have this clip highlighted, and it's displaying it down here in my clip editor. And if I wanted that to be a loop that I could then use in the session view, then I would just create a loop around it and then drag and drop it into the session view. And now I have this loop. So it's really, really malleable. I'm going to click back to arrangement view. And then I'll just get rid of that whole thing that I just did. Just drag this back out. Actually, I will not do that. I'll leave it like this. Okay. So, and then let's say I really like this, but I want to try a different pattern. What you then can do is you can come down here into a little bit further down in the arrangement view. Click the global record button so that we're recording into the arrangement view. And then we try again. Now, obviously these piano parts don't really go together that well, but oh, sorry, this is not recording. So we want to click record. I'm going to just undo what I did there. And we'll click global record, and now we'll play around here. So I'm going to click stop on these, and then start from the beginning. Let's try that over. I'm going to record again. Alright, let's try to make one with like an intro. So I'm going to stop this one, and we'll start here. Global record. Dang it, I keep clicking the wrong one. Alright, global record. Try this one more time. Global record. Pop over, you'll see this is getting recorded. I'm actually recording over another part, but you get the idea. So whatever you're doing over here in the session view, if you have global record armed, you're going to end up recording it into the arrangement view. So I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. Alright, so I've got some cool parts here. Now I'm going to create a MIDI track, and let's say I want to create let's listen to it. Let's see. Let's go with something. Maybe I could add a little bit of hi-hat, and this is just to keep things simple. So I'll grab this kit. I like this 808 kit. And I'm going to find the hi-hat. And as you can see, again, I'm outside of my octave range, so I'm not able to trigger these. I'm getting that little notification there. So I'm going to move down with clicking Z. There we go. Alright, so there I've got a hi-hat now. I'm going to record. Okay, somewhere in there I had to have gotten some of them that work. So I just clicked the hi-hat a whole bunch of times. And what I can do is I can select a 4-bar loop, or 2 bars, or even 1 bar, because it's all the exact same thing. But I'll just stick to the rules here, and I'll click 4 bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. And let me show you something really neat here. So I know for sure that I was not playing in time, because the response was not great. So you can hear where I'm off a little bit. So I can come in here and I can manually move these these hits to be a little more on time. But what you can do, and this is called quantizing, is you can use this marquee tool. So if you just click and drag your mouse and you highlight this MIDI information here, which is the hi-hat, the closed hi-hat, and let's say we right-click on one of these, then we have what's called quantizing. And quantizing is going to move all of those hits to the closest 16th note. So it's going to, and you can actually set how far it actually moves. So it might be the 16th note, the closest 32nd note, closest 8th note, a quarter note. We can look into setting that up. But now, when I play it back, all my hi-hats are right on time. There's a couple funky ones in there that I need to adjust. Yeah, so I need to figure out which one's moving. Looks like things start getting off right about in there. Yeah. Anyway, so it might take a little bit of work to kind of get things all sorted out, but quantizing usually helps. Actually, that kind of being off right in this section sounds pretty neat. So sometimes you can get things to land in between notes. Alright, so there's the assignment. So now what I can do, if I wanted to be very straightforward about this, I could get this beat and pull it over into my, I'm going to click back to arrangement view. I could get this loop, and I know that this is a 4-bar loop, or oh, it's a 1-bar loop. Oh, that's the 1-bar loop that I created. So this is the full loop here. So I'm going to click and drag this full bar loop, this full 4-bar loop over. And I'm going to delete it duplicate it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now I have a 16-bar loop, or 16-bar section here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these strings, and I'll drag those over here. And then this is a 4-bar loop, so I'm going to just need to duplicate it once. And I'll drop down my hi-hat. And I'm just going to take my hi-hat MIDI information, and I'm going to drag and drop that, and duplicate it. And now my assignment is complete. Now, if you want this to continuously loop from the arrangement view, obviously we can do that from the session view by arranging these scenes in order. So in this case, I would move this one back up, and you can create space between these so you have it playing the way that you want. But essentially, this scene right now can be launched. And this is the exact same thing that's being played over here. And I'm going to click back to the arrangement view. Now, if you want something to loop from within the arrangement view over and over, then you have these brackets that you can move around and make a selection with. So I have it around my selection. And then up here on this toolbar, you have this loop function here. So if this is highlighted in yellow, whatever's in between these brackets is going to become looped. All right, cool. So that really completes the lesson. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our session is sticking together. All of the components are staying together. So as you know, we pulled our loops in from this samples library that we created to download our loop samples into. But I want this to stay with my Ableton session. And this is the samples lesson. And in here, as you can see, now that I started using samples in it, it has a samples folder. When I was using this when I was showing you this other lesson, I hadn't used any samples from outside of Ableton, so they were not stored in the lesson. So it looks like we've got almost all, yeah, it looks like we've got both of our samples here, but we want to make sure that we save our project. So we're going to come over here and click File, Save Live Set, and then what we're going to do is we're going to collect all. We're going to go to our File menu, Collect All, and Save. And we're just going to click Yes on all of this. We're going to leave this bottom one selected as No, and we're going to click OK. And now what's going to happen is Ableton's going to collect all those files to make sure that they're inside of the samples folder and imported folder. So now we have these samples along with our project. And this is how you're going to share your projects with me. So this is the assignment that is due on Monday, and you can see how simple it really is. So on Monday, you're going to do a collect all and save. When you're going to save your projects every time you work on them, and then you're going to make sure you do a collect all and save. And then you're going to email me your folder for this project. And because you have all of your samples included and all of your files included in that folder, I'm going to be able to open up your Ableton sessions and see the work that you're doing. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for now. I'm also going to have you guys export these loops for me, but I'll get to that later on in the week. So otherwise, you guys enjoy, and I hope this was helpful.